Call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. Roll call, please.
Mayor Kumar,
Here.
Ms. Pichetti,
Here.
Ms. Elder, Mayor Gallo, Mr. Love,
Here.
Ms. McPherson, Mr. Sleesman,
Here.
Mayor Weiss,
Here.
Ms. Wiggum.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next item is the approval of the minutes for June 16th, 2026.
Chair. Here.
Sorry, Ms. Harper.
As amended. Next item, we have the minutes in front of us for approval, as I've mentioned. You've seen those. If there are no edits, do I have a motion and a second?
So moved, Pichetti.
Second, Harper.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved as posted. Item number 3, we have some potential service adjustments, and Joel Freelick, Director of Service Management, is going to lead us off.
Mayor Kumar, slight change of plans. I'll kick off the discussion. Wanted to essentially provide a perspective of why we are here today. I think as we look at the potential service reduction that should go into effect in December 2026, just a very, very quick reminder of what we have previously shared with the board and the public. These amounts represent a result of the cost reductions that have already been implemented that provide stability through the end of 2028. Essentially getting close to the board policy of 1 month of operating reserve in 2028. And on several occasions, we've also discussed that the cliff, if you will, happens to be in 2029, roughly $30 million, and we had proposed and you'll see that towards the bottom of this slide, that service reductions would account for 17 million of those 30 million in cost reductions that we are undertaking. 13 million would be from other expense reductions, and as we continue to review what those reductions and where they will come from. So this was essentially just a reminder. I don't plan on going through the previous or the upper portion of the slide, since many of us have seen them on several occasions, but the focus really is on the 30 million cliff in 2029 and the plan of reducing expenses of 10 million on an annual basis. With that, I'll turn it over to Joel Freilick to talk about the service reductions.
Raj, just one question for you. Just going back to our board retreat on February 27th, I know that's when I think you first started talking with the board about the issuing of debt of $35 million, sort of using that to manage the operations and the capital. Mm-hmm. And then quickly it moved in April and June to this. Is there something I missed back in that February discussion? When we started having the initial discussion, I know we've got these slides here. My feeling was, and I think others on the board, is that movement with that issue of debt was going to give us more of a runway. It doesn't appear that that's the case, and I'm trying to reconcile the two.
So just a quick reminder, going back to the February discussion that we had, what we had undertaken at that time was to give ourselves a runway, if you will, for the 3-year stability so that we can use that time in evaluating what alternate sources of revenue, including the sales tax levy that was first proposed. We did have the consultant do a presentation at that retreat also. So all of these efforts were geared towards 2028 to provide essentially 3 years of sustainability and stability. So 26, 27, and through the end of 2028. The lower portion of the slide then looks at what happens if no new monies come in during this time. We still have, as an organization, a fiduciary responsibility to control the expenses. And if we have a $30 million budgetary gap that we're going to face in 2029, it is going to be impossible to deal with that amount in 1 year. and which is why the approach has been that we are going to systematically and in an organized manner reduce 10 million on an annual basis. So service reductions obviously is a component of it. And as you have heard me and many others, our commitment still remains to minimize the service reductions to the extent that we possibly can. So the blend, once again, is 17 million over the 3-year period will come in through the service reductions, and we will continue to look for 13 million in reductions over that 3-year period to meet that $30 million budgetary gap.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joe?
Good morning, Mayor Kumar and members of the board. I'm Joel Freilich, Director of Service Management, and now I'm going to shift the focus a bit to just, given the amount of service we've been asked to reduce as one share of the financial plan, the staff in operations and specifically in service management, our task is, since all cuts represent an inconvenience to somebody, we try to identify and meet that financial goal with a package of service reductions that we believe will be the least painful way to achieve that objective. Our top management has identified a goal for us for this year, and so we have put together a plan. We're guided by our board processes for public involvement, for prioritizing services, for looking at ridership, for looking at if this bus stop went away, how far would you have to walk to get to an existing bus stop? This is a very important portion, so geography is important. And then we have to follow our timetable to make sure that there's adequate time for public involvement. So, for example, we held hearings in April about a service reduction that's to happen in August 16th. And sure enough, as a result of that overall public involvement, we were able to make some modifications to ease the burden, and this could happen again. So let's just talk about this time frame now. As we did April hearings for August, we're now looking at August hearings for December. I'll do the bottom line is December 6th, winter service change takes effect, and that's important because you can't wait any longer than that if you want to have the savings accrue through all of 2027 right from the first pay period. So here we are with a briefing on July 21st, the Committee of the Whole. This coming Friday, we must send the legal notice to the Call and Post and Plain Dealer, which they publish in their legal classifications, to identify the time and place of the hearing. We also do many other methods of notifying our riders, but while we do that, we still have to adhere to this legal requirement. So that gets published July 29th. The hearings are already scheduled, August 10th through 12th. Very parallel to what we did in April. We do them in the boardroom, have lots of methods of remote access. We also do one morning, one midday, one evening, just like April. The comment period by our regulation closes August 24th. And the staff is constantly analyzing the comments as they come in through all the various methods, including online and written and phone. And we finish analyzing the comments on August 26th so that we can make a presentation to you on September 8th to indicate what we think we're going to go ahead with. And then the general manager makes that final decision by our policy on September 10th. And that gives us almost 3 months, which we need for our internal processes, as well as to communicate to the public, because we don't expect them to remember on December 6th what was talked about on the August 26th hearing. They need to understand exactly what the routes and schedules are going to look like so they can plan their trips. So the kind of like last time, the proposed reductions are in categories. There's a route discontinuation category, which technically is the only reason we are required to hold a public hearing. But certainly, once you're going to hold a public hearing about one aspect, you're clearly going to discuss all aspects with the public. So this is only one route discontinuation. It operates weekday daytime only. It's the number 35 Lee Boulevard East 123rd. I'll go briefly just to show you where that is, and then I'll come back to that slide. The top half of the portion is, so let's say to the northwest or west side, left side of your screen, you'll see a label of East 123rd Street on a north-south street. That's in a Cleveland neighborhood that during system redesign, there was disappointment in the neighborhood about that being eliminated, so we created a new route to not only do that, but also go further to the southeast. Hasn't turned out so well for us. So when we're in a situation where we do have to reduce, this is one that we look at. The middle section of your graphic is Lee Boulevard, and that is the only segment where there's no gray line very near to that segment of Lee Boulevard. So that's the area where the very small number of people boarding will actually have longer than a half-mile walk to an alternate service. Everywhere else, the walk is either non-existent or less than a half mile. And let's just talk about that for a moment. Going back to the slide I showed you. First half of 2026 ridership is only 5 boardings per one-way trip, which is very low. And on average, just 2 times a day, somebody boards that bus at a place that's more than a half mile from an alternate route. So this happens just twice a day. Somebody rides that bus, boards or lights, at a place that is more than a half mile for an alternate route. So when we're looking to save money, this hurts fewer people. We have, so the remainder are weekday frequency reductions and weekend frequency reductions. So for the weekday frequency reductions, we've selected 5 routes for weekday frequency reductions. These will be discussed with the public and we'll take their input. The number 1, St. Clair, weekday frequency would change from every 15 to every 30. The same on the number 15, Union Harvard. The same on the number 41, Warrensville, the portion north of Southgate. And the same, and different on number 50, that would change from every 30 minutes to every 60 minutes, as it was until 2024 when we made an improvement. And the number 77, Brecksville, which is an hourly service 7 days a week due to relatively low ridership, but it has a boost during rush hour. There really isn't a strong ridership boost during rush hour. We've still held on to the frequency boost, but under this proposal, we would have to let go of that frequency boost and just stay at 60 minutes at all times. I'll briefly, I think this part you know, but St. Clair is shown here with public square area at the lower left and Collinwood at the upper right. Number 15 is shown here with public square at the upper left of the graph and Tri-C East at the lower right. Number 41 is shown here with Windermere at the top of the graph and Southgate Transit Center at the bottom. Number 50 is shown here with Cleveland Clinic at the top of the graph and a residential neighborhood within the city of Cleveland south of Miles in the lower portion of the graph. Number 77, the final one to discuss, is one which, in fact, we are planning to realign. It'll better serve Valor Acres and will serve some jobs very near the county line, the Cuyahoga County, Summit County line in the Brecksville area. So we are going to do that realignment once the road opens. We're still waiting for the road to open. But we would remove the frequency boost just because of financial considerations. Let's go to weekend frequency reductions. 3 routes are involved, or 2.5 if you prefer, because the number 25, the only segment affected by this proposed frequency reduction is the segment west of 117th Street, where all of these would go from 30 to 60 minutes. The number 25 and number 83 would go from 30 to 60 minutes. Number 28 is a little more detailed there. The trunk of the route would change from every 15 to 30 minutes, but it does have 2 branches. And so once the buses go out on the branches, that frequency would change from every 30 to every 60. I'll show you those routes as well. This is the 25. The blue public squares on the upper right. West 117th Madison Station is at the center of the graphic. Everything east of that center point is not affected by the proposal and will remain on Saturday and Sunday at the 30-minute level. But west of the station, the ridership is significantly less than east of the station, and under this proposal, the weekend frequency would drop from 30 to 60 minutes.
Bill, could you back that slide for a second?
Yes. I can.
That end at the Fairview Park Transit Center?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Yes, thank you for that. The far western end of that is at the Westgate Transit Center in Fairview Park. And the center is the West 117th Madison Station. And the lower right is Steelyard Commons, and just above that is the Tremont neighborhood. Let's go to there are 2 more routes here. The number 28, here at the bottom of the graph is the Windermere Station with downtown off the map further southwest. This route goes northeast from Windermere Station, and at 222nd it branches into 2 branches. Today, on weekends, as well as weekdays, the service is 15 minutes up until the branch, and then it splits into 30. But weekends, what we will do is it'll leave Windermere every 30 minutes, and once it gets to the branches, those branches will be hourly service. Number 83 is a crosstown route with Lakewood Park at the top of the graphic. And at the very bottom of the graphic, there's an intermediate point at Tri-C West. And then the route ends at Parma Transit Center. This route was hourly every day before system redesign. In system redesign, we upgraded every day during the daytime from hourly to half-hourly. This proposal won't touch that weekday improvement from system redesign. Well, that'll stay at 30, but weekend would revert to the pre-system redesign and would go back to 60 minutes under the proposal. Summarize this service adjustment. There is a line in the table for each one of the service adjustments that I have named. Each one has an annual vehicle hours reduction. Those are all totaled at the bottom right of the table at 65,070 annual vehicle hours. That will reduce system-wide vehicle hours by 4.9%. and save 4.1 million annually. That saves 4.1 million annually on top of what we already start saving August 16th, and meets our quota for this year. And here we have this summary where what we will implement on August 16th is a 3% service reduction, saving $2.5 million. What is proposed for December is a 4.9% service reduction, saving an additional $4.1 million. The total savings out of service is shown there as 7.9% of what's running today, with a reduction of $6.6 million. That's our share of the 10. And we think we can make it work. So that at this point, if Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Go back to that summary slide for a second, Joel. And I guess I'm trying to look at this, and maybe I missed it, but we received a memo this morning. I would ask if that's possible in the future to get some of those in our board packet, just so we have time to digest it. Maybe that wasn't the case this time, but there are other routes, I think, mentioned on here that you didn't mention on your slide deck.
Just for awareness, this is a copy of what you received in June, so it's dated June 26th. These are,
There, okay.
yeah, and just to piggyback, so you've got 3 items at your dais.
Okay.
These are just reminder items. One is the rail car replacement program that's been updated, and you'll hear about that in a bit because the budget overall. And then the memo, basically a duplicate of what Joel is going through, and then the sales tax to support the presentation.
What about the Strongsville Park and Ride?
Yes, just a moment.
55B, C, some things in Brattonall. I didn't see all of those listed up there. I'm just trying to reconcile the memo to the slides.
So, good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board. I'm Flonse Caver, the Deputy General Manager for Operations here. The memo that you have in front of you is a memo that we place there for a reminder on the backside of the schedule. And so that was given out in June. It was only to remind that we were coming back on the 21st to go through here. What that memo talks about is what we could do with increased service and how that might look on the front page of it. The backside of it was the most important piece, which was the schedule.
So, Joe, going back to your summary slide,
Yes, is this the summary that you want or something before that?
prior to that?
Before that, yes.
Yeah, those. So are those routes the ones that are being cut in for December, or are there additional
Yes.
routes?
These are only the routes that will be discussed at public hearing, and pending public involvement would be subject to a reduction on December, in early December.
Okay,
That's-
so there's a route on this memo that's not on your slide that's still active, under consideration for management?
I believe that we're not, this is all we're focusing on for reductions. If there is a route not mentioned, if there's a route I have not talked about, then it must be a discussion of what improvements might be made in the future with more revenue. But, okay?
I believe that memo is potential reductions for later on in subsequent years.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay. Some other
thank
year.
you.
Yeah, for the total of all of the service reductions if we don't receive revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
So it's a 3-year period, but...
It's the 3-year reduction.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. There we go. Yeah, we got it. Sorry. I didn't have it in front of me. Okay. What's that?
Okay, I think I understand. So these other routes that we see in this June 26th memo are under consideration post-December.
Yes.
Okay.
So they could be, yes, if there's another round of cutting, if there were another round of cutting, which I hope.
We hope there will not
won't
be. Yes, yeah.
Those other routes would be looked at for something in late 27 reduction.
Okay.
To help the 28 budget or something, right.
Okay. So my comments now it's a comment and kind of a question. They'll mirror things that you've heard when we were doing the public hearings back in the summer. As I hear these cuts, nobody wants to leave somebody walking, more than a half mile. But strategically, I do think it's a healthy thing for any organization to do, to refocus resources from where it helps the fewest people to where it helps the most people. So as I'm interpreting this, I think, okay, these sound right. If we have to cut, I don't know the details of every route, but generally, I think a healthy process to go through to make sure we're being an effective organization and spending money responsibly. But I do want to just offer that and ask if there are other things we can do, if we're cutting a route or making it go from every 30 minutes to every 60 minutes, are there small things we can do? And I think we've discussed some of these things this year, to have better on-time performance so that nobody is left, at the bus stop waiting 60 minutes for the next ride. If they arrived 1 minute, if the bus came 1 minute early or something like that. So that's one example. But I'm wondering, there's other investments we've been making to make the ridership experience better for people. And those are investments we've already made. And so I'm hoping that as those come online, and with small investments in other places, we can hopefully make the rider experience better, even as we're cutting some service. And I was wondering if you could just comment on that a little bit.
Sure. Those improvements are things that we're working very hard on in parallel with all this, and I assure you we would be working actually just as hard even if we were not reducing frequency, because riders deserve those improvements and we are working on them. So for example, we have effective January 1st of 2025, we are grading ourselves more harshly with regard to any bus departing from a time point earlier than the schedule says. So we are really double downing, focusing. Do not leave a time point early. In addition, we are improving all kinds of intelligent transportation systems to get people better and more accurate information about the actual arrive time. So, I'm kind of old school, so it took me a while to convince me to use my smartphone to get real-time information. But now I'm using it, and I'm seeing a very higher percentage of when I ask, it's got that little mark that says, this is real, and fewer times it says, this is scheduled, so good luck. But, we are. There's a Swiftly system that I can't speak to because I'm not expert on it, but we are really vigorously going after that aspect of service reliability. And we would be doing it either way, so I really am not going to say we're going to do it harder because of the service reductions, because we're doing it to the max already. And with more money, we would have more at bus stop information, because not everybody can afford both a smartphone and a smartphone plan and enough data and all that stuff. So, it's a high priority for this organization. We had audit of the whole on-time performance. And once you're audited, they really keep after you. So we're doing it.
Thank you. That's exactly the type of thing that I was thinking of. So thank you. And then I just have one more question. If these adjustments occur this year, levy passes in May, do we automatically? I know it takes a while for the money to come in, but do we automatically go back to these routes and reinstitute them, or will there be a relook, an overhaul at the entire system to make sure when we do go back online, there won't continuously be kind of shifts so frequently that we confuse riders with what routes are at what times, and will there be kind of a look at the entire system to make sure when we put routes back online they are the right ones? Question.
Yes, emphatically. Emphatically, we do nothing automatically. Everything is thought out. We did a major system redesign with lots of public involvement in 2019, and we still retain What the public said is their priorities. What are their goals, priorities, what's more important, what's less important. We continue to use that because that doesn't change every year. Okay? The exact application to your network changes, but those goals remain with us. And so nothing is automatic. So I'm not going to say, oh, of course, SNAP. That's not right. When you add resources, you put them where they can do the most good. When you remove resources, you take them from where taking it does the least harm. And that changes over time, so we're constantly monitoring.
Thank you.
Questions from other trustees?
To the chair, to Joe, that was my similar question about, I know when we pass the levy, people will have questions about routes and their routes, but we will have a similar community engagement process that your team and RTA will lead the community through to understand the new additions, or I guess you can say bringing new routes back on once we receive additional revenue, because I'm going to speak this into existence, trustees. So thank you for that clarification.
Mayor.
We haven't really talked about this yet, but the savings that are created by these reductions in service, you had a total dollar amount, but that gets translated into, I assume, number of employees. Am I correct on that?
I don't have the figures to answer questions about exactly what's the percentage reduction in employees. I will tell you that the percentage reduction in bus operators is very close to the percentage reduction in annual vehicle hours. Because to produce a vehicle hour, a driver has to drive for an hour. So, and drivers, we aim for roughly a 40-hour week for full-timers, and so it does tend to be proportional. There's a high rate of attrition among any large category of employees. An operator is a large category of employees, so there is constant attrition. So when you shrink by these percentages, you don't need to do layoffs. You simply slow down the inflow so that it's a portion of the outflow, and so this does not require layoffs. It does involve employing fewer people, but it does not involve layoffs in these kinds of percentages.
If I can just piggyback, thank you, Joel. I think what you're saying is accurate. If I can just ask George Fields for HR if you had any additional comments regarding the support for the comment about the attrition and kind of the natural sort of attrition that happens within transit operations for bus operator, because I think it's a unique space, and we do have a little bit more ebb and flow to our hiring practices than other industries.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Birdsong-Terry, members of the board. We certainly work hand in hand with Joel and his team to bring in the number of operators per month needed to, as Joe said, keep up with attrition. And as Joe was mentioning, we slow that process down as needed. And so over the last, I'd say over the last 6 months, you've seen some evidence of that as we've kind of pulled back on the number of operators that we bring in, particularly that we actually change from full-time to part-time to help effectuate that as well. So we would anticipate doing the same as we work through the remaining of this year as well as 2027.
Other comments? Thank you so much. Item number 4, new rail car update. We have several presenters led by Mike Schipper.
Mayor Kumar, members of the board, myself, Mike Schipper, Deputy General Manager, Engineering Project Management, Casey Blaze, Deputy Project Manager for the rail car program, will be making the presentation. We have other people in the wings, depending on the question and answer. But we're going to focus on where the rail car program is, talk about scope, budget, schedule, and delivery. I'll do more on the scope, budget, funding part and then Casey will talk about the delivery and schedule. The railcar program, the new railcar contract was awarded in April of '23. We've added additional option orders for a total of 54 cars that are ordered, and these rail cars are common cars that will be able to serve every station in our system. Earlier this year, there was a lot of discussion about the total number of cars in the program. With that set at 54, we're now we're going to reflect that in the budget. And again, our current car fleet, both the light rail and heavy rail cars, certainly have exceeded their useful life and are in very much need of replacement. When it comes to the overall program budget, what we're proposing and what we've shown on the infographic is reducing the total program from $450 million to $435 million. And within that 435, about $35 million of that is contingency money. The last line there is our unallocated contingency of about $15 million. But we have another $20 million that is embedded in the line items above that. And I'll get into more detail as we go forward. So on the vehicle acquisition, obviously, if we're ordering fewer vehicles, we've decreased the vehicle budget. We didn't decrease it by $36 million, but we did decrease it by 20. And we also have allocated some things for potential change orders down the road. Obviously, tariffs are an issue, and the way our contract's set up, we have a risk item for tariff. Inflation, particularly in the option cars, because the option car final price is based on a manufacturing and a labor index. So if we get into another inflation spiral, we've allocated some money for that. But a little over $12 million is allocated within the vehicle budget. Design and testing, we have a consultant contract with Hatch that we've had for a long time. On the inspection and testing side, that covers the first 30 cars. When we get beyond that, we will be we'll probably be coming forward with some kind of change order in the future to cover the last 24 cars. So we have got that budget increased. We have some allocated funds there. We've also allocated money in case we need enhanced and higher levels of inspection than we've been doing so far. On the infrastructure, that's the work that most of the people in my group are doing, is all the modifications to our Brook Park Yard, our Central Rail Facility, platforms, stations, and track work and our port connection. We've increased that budget because we've had a lot of inflation in that area. The good parts of this are that all the design contracts have been awarded. All the designs are completed except for one. Now, those contracts do have some construction admin to them, but the risk level of those design contracts increasing is very low because we're far enough along. On the construction side, we have 7 packages. 5 of them have been awarded. We have a small package for security fencing and a larger package for the light rail station modifications required for the common car. 3 of our contracts are actually completed of those 7. So we do have about $3.5 million allocated, mostly for bid and construction of the bigger package. But we do have other change orders and things that come into play. Force count admin, that's time that we charge, RTA staff time. The admin costs, we increased slightly, and that's mostly with my staff supporting the design phases. We've increased that by about $100,000. We've decreased the force account. Force account is a lot of what the rail card, the dedicated group, they charge their time to the force account. So Casey, Brian, Heather, Jessica that are the core team, Jack Barnett, who's now going to be helping through the commissioning. they'll charge their time to the force account. We have a $9 million budget for that. So far, though, we haven't used all that budget to date, so we decreased this amount in the budget because we were running under in 24 and 25. In the unallocated contingencies, the last time we did the budget, it was 16.3. We've decreased that to 15, again, because we're farther along. But this remains in the budget for any unforeseen things that may come up during construction, during the final manufacturing, and certainly during the commissioning and training and testing activities when the cars get here. So that's how the different budget categories. When it comes to funding, this is a chart that kind of confuses everybody, but it's the detailed thing of where all the money came from. But I have a more simplified chart. But the one thing I do want to say is at the 435, we no longer are seeking any grant funding from any of our federal, state, or local partners. We've received all that grant award. The difference between the awarded and committed column is that some of those grants are multi-year, and they also have to, whenever, as I've said during the CIP budget, when we win a grant, the money doesn't show up that day. Usually it takes about a year to get that grant turned into a real grant with the money available for us to use. But of the 435, 358 is in our hand. 63 of it is promised and coming. And then we have 13 million left, which is an RTA local component. So we control that. So if we bring the project in under budget, that 13 million is going to go down. And that's 100% RTA money. A simplified way to look at this is just rolling everything into different categories of RTA, which we fund through the rolling stock reserve at 91 million, the whole cluster of FTA and US DOT and congressionally directed spending at 241, ODOT at 60.5, NOAC at 28.8. That adds up to 421.9. That's what we have committed into the program. That's 97%. The last 3% would be local RTA money. So, we've done a really good job of funding the program. And if we were to, again, as the team is challenged to do, stay on with our scope, budget, schedule, the project could come in under 435, and if it does, everything under 435 is 100% RTA money. That'll go back into our rolling stock reserve. With that, I will turn it over to Casey to talk about the actual delivery of the
Hey,
program.
Mike, before you leave the podium, if it's okay, I just want to stop right here for a moment because I think this is a really good inflection point. If there are any questions from the board, if I may do that, President, to be able to talk through the financing. The reason that I'm doing this at this point is because as we've been ramping up our community engagement, right, in anticipation of the win, right, I'll channel Ms. Wiggum on that one, is we're getting a lot of misnomers out in the public that we are RTA are spending $435 million of our money to support the rail car, which is erroneous. And so as we were going through the slides, I know Mike is very much a great steward of the budget on this one, as well as Raj, as well as Doc, Fonse, to be able to think through this. And we wanted to be able to show you the difference in the funding stack. Again, you've seen this multiple times, but this is also for our riding public and for our consumers to understand that when you look at this funding stack, and Mike, keep me honest here, we're coming in at 21% of the overall budget for local funding, which amounts to around $91 million out of the 435. And so when you look on the ROI for this type of project that we know we need to have in order to make good on the questions and the asks that have come from the public for years and decades, we have to have a safe system, we have to have a newer system, modernized, we have to have something that's flexible, and folks love the rapid, right? That's what we call it here, and we want to be able to make good on that promise. We are doing this at a very economical rate, and I just wanted to piggyback and underscore the amount of investment for RTA that's coming in by the state of Ohio through ODOT to the tune of $60 million plus. NOACA, nearly $30 million, and the federal investment, and we talk about this all the time, and Mike, feel free to piggyback me on this. The amount of federal investment that has been provided to Cleveland, greater Cleveland, is nothing to shy away from. And I want to make sure that we also talk about that. This is the federal government saying that Cleveland is worth a transit agency that's modern and clean and safe and up to date. So we're essentially continuing to ask the community to match that fervor to be able to get us to a system that is prepared for 2026, not 1980. And so I want to just make sure that you understand the funding stack, and if there are any questions or if anything I may have missed, Mike, go ahead.
No, I think you've covered that pretty well.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I did have one question, because there are two sources of RTA dollars, correct? The 91 million, and then the 3% to 13.
Yeah. So if the budget, if everything comes in at 435, the way we have the budget, yeah, there's another 3% that would be RTA. So that'd be a 24% contribution and 76% from outside sources. Obviously, if we come in a little bit under that budget, the percentages change, but still, most of the grants are 80-20, not all of them. So that's why on this slide, there's a lot more detail in there, because the different funding programs are different. But to simplify this is, at 435, 24% would be RTA.
Right.
76% would be outside funding.
Yeah, it doesn't change the underlying point, which is
No.
3/4 of it is coming from other sources.
Yeah.
I just didn't want people to be confused on that.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback and kind of a quick reminder, hi, Mayor Kumar, members of the board, this is Raj Gautam, Deputy General Manager of Finance. I want to bring back the whole discussion on the contingency amounts that are also included in the 435. So that is a quote-unquote a cushion, if you will, of nearly 35 million that resides within the program budget. And if we come that's coming back as far as the RTA local portion is. India used an ROI term. I'd like to simplify that. If someone were to come up to me and say, you put in 25% and you get an asset for 435 million, I'll make that deal any day of the week.
Just, if I could, one more quick question. Just because, Mike, I think you mentioned on the contingency, Raj, when that comes back, if there's funds that come back, it goes to the rolling stock account? Is that the plan?
That would be our money, so it would go back into either the rolling stock or remain in the capital program.
Okay, I promise. Yeah.
I was just going to double down on what Raj said, because I think it's important to talk about this in the number of, we're talking about ROI, but we're not saying it, and I'm not fast enough to do this math, but for every dollar that RTA has invested, we've leveraged, another $4 or $3.50? And so if we can do that math so we as board members can speak about it in that way, I think we want to be able to talk about the leverage that has occurred through this investment. Don't check my math, Emily.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong Terry. My name is Casey Blaze. I'm the Deputy Project Manager for the Railcar Replacement Program. Giving you a quick manufacturing update, looking at the photos on the screen. On the leftmost photo, you can see we are now branded on the vehicle, so it's becoming real. You can see RTA logos, decals in the middle picture, and then on the far right, that's the car 401 in final detail. And where we stand in production today, We have 21 car shells, which are the steel structures fully assembled. Of those 21, 13 have flooring, cladding, and paint. Of those 13, 9 are in final assembly. So some version of the car you see on the immediate right on the screen. 3 have interiors being installed. 2 are into static or dynamic testing, which means the vehicle is now receiving software. They're sending it signals, verifying it's functional. And the dynamic portion of that is where it actually goes outside under overhead power and it's operated on their test track. And then we have 2 in Ditmaco, which is a brand name for wire integrity or continuity testing. So when they assemble these vehicles, there's 30 miles of electrical wires in this. And so what they have to do is verify throughout that whole installation process, they didn't nick a wire, mislabel a wire, connect it improperly. So they send signals through those wires in anticipation of a return signal, and they verify all that is functional. If it is, it passes Ditmaco and moves on to static. And then we have 1 vehicle which is prepped to be married. So vehicle 9 is 2 halves right now. They're putting the interiors together so they can combine them. And then we have 1 in final detail, which is 401, which is where it's receiving decals, polishing, the finer tunes that need before we can do an inspection. And then the schedule where we stand, the first rail car delivery in Cleveland in September of this year, 2026. We begin redline service. We'll retire the Tokyo vehicles in August of 2027. And then in August of 2028, we'll retire the Breda light rail vehicles, the existing light rail vehicles, and we'll transition to a fully functional Siemens system throughout the whole alignment. And with that, I'll ask any questions.
Just because we have some new trustees, talk about what's required to test the vehicles once they arrive, hence that basically year lag between receipt and going live, and what's required by FTA and to get those operational and safe.
Sure. So our Brook Park Maintenance Facility, which is a rail shop located near the airport, past Brook Park Station, so it's between Brook Park Rapid Station and the airport. We have that yard and that shop set up for commissioning for Siemens. Siemens is going to move into that facility August 17th of this year, so it's approaching quickly. With that, all the vehicles will arrive into Brook Park facility, and they have to go through a series of tests. So the first 3 vehicles receive different testing than the remaining 51 vehicles. And that's because a 3-car consist is what will operate as the maximum size of the fleet. So we want to test those 3 in 3-car consists to verify certain functionalities that are required. For the first vehicle, it will go through what they call load qualification testing, where they'll take it out onto the alignment in a very specific section of track, and they'll run it back and forth for about 5 weeks, putting it through very rigorous testing, all different axle weights. So we'll simulate passenger loads with lead weights that they'll put on the vehicle. And we'll go through the brake rates, the propulsion rates to verify that we're achieving what we asked for in the specifications. It'll also go through some very specialized testing to make sure we don't have any interference with the signaling system or the substations. We'll go through and test dynamic clearances, ride quality, and all the other various types tests. Those will be the first vehicles. Then we'll do a coupled clearance test where we'll couple the vehicles together. We'll pull them through the system to verify that they can navigate the system. We'll do that with a 2-car consist and a 3-car consist, and then ultimately a 6-car consist in case we had to rescue a 3-car. So those are some of the on-track testing you'll see. Inside Brook Park facility, they'll do what's called static testing, and they'll put it through its paces under the wire there and check for brakes, check for cab signal, level the vehicle so it has to be within a certain tolerance of level, and then any other things they need to install. So a snow plow will be installed here because it's hard to ship with the snow plow on the vehicle, and the sanding brackets will also be installed here. So there's some slight assembly. It's very quick to put those 2 items on, but those will be some of the type testing and routine testing that you'll see throughout the whole alignment. And then the final test is what we call a burn-in. So it will travel 1,000 miles, so along all the different alignment, 1,000 mile without a major fault or defect. And a major fault is defined as something that would take the vehicle out of service. So once it clears that, we'll have conditional acceptance, which is where we are now. The warranty begins, and the vehicle can be put into revenue service.
Through the chair, if I may. Could you go back one slide, back to the timeline? The two last bullets, do the cars that are scheduled to come online all come in at the same time, or are they staged over the course of a year? I was just curious.
Sure. So we'll receive the first vehicles, and we'll go through the testing process as I just described. And then they'll be parked in the yard. They'll be going through training with the operators, because we have to train our operating fleet, or our operators on how to operate this fleet. So they'll be used through that process. And then in August, sometime before August, we'll transition the lines to begin construction, because we have to extend the platforms. So these vehicles are narrower than the existing vehicles, so the platforms need to be have extensions added on, which is what Mike's group is working on. So the pre-work is happening now, but we'll do a series of shutdowns, east side and west side, to extend the platforms. Once those platforms are extended, the existing vehicles can no longer operate because they're too wide. So that will be the cutover at that moment when we transition to the extensions. And that's anticipated in August. Sure. The question that Dr. Kaver asked was the schedule and how many come per month. So this year, we're anticipating to get 11 vehicles. So we'll get 3, 2, and 2. 3, 3, 3, and 2. I'm sorry. So we'll get them this year in that sequence, and December is the oddball because of the holidays. And then we'll start to receive 2 per month after that. So we'll continuously be receiving these vehicles until about 2029, when vehicle 54 is delivered, and then it'll go through that dynamic and static testing.
I had a question. Are there any plans for public viewing or some kind of fanfare about the delivery of these rail cars? There are members of Clevelanders for Public Transit have been hitting me up in Discord. My boss is asking me about it. She's a daily train rider. She's very excited. And the only reason I ask is because this is the kind of thing that propels people towards the ballot box. We're only investing a quarter of our money at worst for this incredible upgrade to our infrastructure and our service. Imagine what we could do with more.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, obviously there will be some showing off of the vehicle, but our marketing team is working on that. We're also working with Siemens on that. But we don't want to get too far out in front of it, because we won't know what car we won't know the day the car is showing up until it leaves the plant in Sacramento. And certainly when it gets here, we can't have a big deal the day it gets here, because there's things that need to be done to the car when it arrives before we show it. But there's lots of opportunities to do that. And there will be a lot of opportunities to do it between September and August. Certainly, as part of one of the infrastructure projects, we're doing a proof of concept on Tower City at the middle track, 10 West, where our vendor that's doing the platform work is actually going to do the modification, take it down, do the modification a couple times, so we have a good idea how long it takes to add the extensions to every platform, so that we can schedule the shutdown properly next summer. But when we're doing that in Tower City, certainly we'll be running the new cars into that to make sure it all works. And there's a great opportunity in one of our facilities to actually see the car on the platforms at Tower City. There are other opportunities that we're going to have, but the team is working on all kinds of them. And we don't want to, let's not start down that road until we know the first car is actually here. So.
People love trains, so I had to ask.
Yeah, no, and it's going to happen, and don't worry. We've been joking around that, you know, some of us will be hanging out on the bridge overlooking the port to watch the cars being delivered and stuff. So we know there's a lot of interest, but the last thing we want to do is get ahead of it, because you can't have an event if the car's not here. And we want to make sure that we have it structured properly. And the team is working really hard to, you know, to come up with things like that.
I'll just piggyback Mike for a moment, and trustees, I encourage you, check your RTA emails. There's a save the date in there. It doesn't have all of the information because of the things that Mike mentioned, but I'm going to ask Sharon from marketing. She's sitting in for Natoya today, who's out sick. We wanted to be able to also gain your confidence that we're having the marketing team working alongside the railcar team to make sure that we have that plan of unveiling. As Mike mentioned, the first car is getting toward its kind of Cinderella stage, right? It's getting all of the bells and whistles put on it. Flance and I will actually be traveling to Sacramento to take a trip, as well as Casey and Brian and a couple other folks, to be able to do the first article inspection, which is basically kind of getting it prepared to be able to be delivered here to Cleveland. So when that happens, usually that's the icing on the cake, to be able to get that here. And I know Sharon Jenkins has been working with the railcar team to be able to have a plan in place. The idea would be able to have, well, Sharon, go ahead, without giving too much information, just to be able to kind of gain the confidence of the board that marketing is on top of it.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Jenkins. I'm the Director of Marketing. And we just had a meeting with Siemens marketing team yesterday. They will be taking pictures of the rail car today and sending them to us, so we'll have some content to be able to share publicly. They will not be pretty because it is still in process, and so the big reveal will eventually be here in Cleveland. When the cars come, they will be wrapped. So even as they come into the port, they will be covered in a white material. So there will not be an unveiling, just to manage expectations, or a big celebration or a lot to see, because they will be completely covered in white plastic and delivered to the Brook Park yard. So the unveiling will be the initial kind of, hopefully, walk through the save the date that you probably received in your package. We have a very short window upon delivery from the port, and that will be a logistical challenge, and it will be new for our team, and it will come over to Brook Park yard. And we will have a very limited window because it will need to start going into testing right away. But as Casey said and Mike said, as these cars come in and as the assembly is finished on property, we will schedule public touch the train events, see the train, practice with the new bike racks, et cetera. And we will do those in controlled circumstances. Hopefully in property. Tower City is likely going to be a central spot that we'll be able to schedule events and have the public and train aficionados come and see the new vehicles. It's very exciting.
Thanks, Sharon. And then one quick question, and then that's it for me. Casey, can you just reiterate one quick thing, and then Mike, if you could reiterate one quick thing. So Casey first, when you mentioned the burn-in, and that was more like October, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. When will the cars, and this kind of get back to the question that Bob asked you, when will the people start to see the cars, even if it's in testing phase, not in white plastic, right, to Sharon's point, where people can get excited about it and start to see them as a real live, vehicle that's operation? Sure.
So part of the testing that will occur is in the Brook Park yard, which you can see when you drive by on 237, which is right outside there. And then also when you're riding the red line into the airport, you'll pass the Brook Park Yard. We'll do some of that testing in Brook Park Yard starting in September, and then it'll hit the main line between 71 and Puritas. So Brook Park Station and Puritas Rapid Station is our identified testing zone because it's a tangent track, so it's straight, and we can achieve the speeds necessary to do the testing. And that'll also be around October, so you'll be able to see the vehicle from 71 in October.
Okay, of 2026.
This year.
Okay, all right, just had to check.
Yes.
And then the other item, Mike, if you could just reiterate, because I think we talked about it, but I didn't say it into the mic. Any contingency funds that aren't utilized, that it goes back into which bucket, operating or capital?
Capital.
Okay.
And again, like with this year's operating budget, there has been no contribution this year into the rolling stock reserve fund. So, the rolling stock reserve fund was put together so that there'll be money there for midlife overhauls. There'll be money to match other grants for buses. There's other money, to build that up. So 35 years from now, we're not looking at trying to fundraise $400 million. So that rolling stock reserve fund has a pretty significant purpose, and actually the real value of that's going to be showing up probably 15, 20 years from now when the cars need a midlife overhaul. So, so it will be capital centric, and certainly from the capital team, there's an incentive to bring the project in under budget.
Mike, Casey, thank you very much. There's nothing else from the trustees. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting. Do I have a second?
Second, Smith-Wiggham.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. I'd like to call to order the GCRTA Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. Roll call, please, Brent.
Mayor Kumar,
Here.
Ms. Bichetti,
Here.
Ms. Elder, Mayor Gallo,
Here.
Ms. Harper,
Here.
Mr. Love,
Here.
Ms. McPherson,
Here.
Mr. Sleesman,
Here.
Mayor Weiss,
Present.
Ms. Wiggum.
Present.
I have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Certification regarding notice of meeting, please.
Mr. President, I advise that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance and that all usual notification has been given to the media and other interested persons. All requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with.
Thank you very much. Next, we have approval of the minutes. And I just want to ask the trustees, do any of you have edits to any of the meetings or special meetings that are listed? If there are not any edits, I'm inclined to do them all at once. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything in there that needed to be tweaked from anyone's perspective. Okay. If not, I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 16th, 2026 meeting, the 23rd special meeting, June 30th special meeting, and the July 7th special meeting. Do I have a second?
Second, Harper.
All in favor? Aye. You opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have public comment for agenda and non-agenda items. Do we have anyone from the audience that would like to speak today? If so, please go up to the podium.
Okay. My name is Stephen Katanovic.
Hi,
I
Stephen.
first want to talk about Steelyard Commons. Many East Side neighborhoods are losing their grocery stores, so Steelyard Commons is an important destination for East Side grocery shoppers. The RTA routes that go to Steelyard Commons should have first priority and should never be forgotten. Number 16 East 55th and number 25, both of those routes should be very important. And again, Number 16 and number 25 that go to Steelyard Commons is important for grocery shoppers because there's less grocery stores on the east side. Okay. Now the next thing I got to get my card. On a growing number of buses, if you're sitting in the passenger seat, they got those overhead computers that flash messages. Well, I'm one of those persons that I kind of shield it out. When that computer is flashing, I'm kind of like, hey, I got my own personal life. I don't have to always look at that computer, so I shield it out usually. Okay, and then my next issue. Over the last year, the loudspeaker systems on the RTA have been going through a lot of changes. You got the guy who mentions, he makes announcements, safety and security on our transit is everyone's responsibility. And on some of those buses, the speakers are way over amplified. It sounds as loud as a rock concert. On a public transit bus, those speakers don't need to be so loud. And I got some coach numbers where that's over amplified. I'm going to read those coach numbers now. Okay. 3853, 42, again, 4228, 3804, 4202, 3331, 4205. Again, that's 4205, 4114. So these coach numbers have over-amplified speaker systems. So I think that's enough for now, so thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Management has those written down, and we will check those units for you. Anyone else in person? Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Hinkle. I'm a longtime resident of Cleveland and a longtime RTA commuter. My question is about your candidates and your representatives securing funds for the public mass transit. And it seems like they should come to these meetings and take questions and answers to what they're planning out on how they're going to make improvements for public transit. There's a lot of people like myself that use it the most, though. And they should take a ride on, as I said again, to areas that are very underserved, like the east side. I'm just concerned about losing a little bit of service on the St. Clair line because I use it a lot, and I feel it's one of the poorest and one of the most poorest and underserved areas in the city. That if you can't get your candidates or reps to come to these meetings and take questions and lay their plans what they're going to do to get some funds. But transit should not be put on the burden of the taxpayers. We pay enough taxes as it is. So I stand with Ms. Terry.
Thank you very much.
Funds with that. Thank you, folks.
Do we have one individual in the rear of the building? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I wasn't here last month, but I was able to ride the Rapid for the first time at Shaker Square. I was in the wrong spot, and some riders told me, I think you're supposed to be over there. I said, okay. So I went up the little ramp thing they got there, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing and all that. He said, just sit tight. I said, okay. Here comes the Rapid, and the guy, I said, look, this is all new to me. He said, don't worry, I got you. The guy, the driver, was so pleasant. He made the experience wonderful. He said, I'll let you know where to go and everything when you get off. I was going to Bishop Cosgrove to volunteer from the church. And he told me, he said, wait, stay right here. Then he said, you see those people down there with the green jackets or vests or something on? He said, I want you to go to them first, and they will tell you what you need to do. I did. So he waited till I got down there and stuff like that. Then they told me, wait, here comes people in red vests or jackets or something, ambassadors. We got it from here. I was so happy. I mean, when I say represent the company well, they do. I'm going to walk you where you need to go. I'm going to stay with you until the bus comes to take you there. And she did. I was so happy. The experience overall, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Okay, also, I have 3 drivers, Dwayne, Monique, and Dee Dee. I hadn't seen Dee Dee since probably last year. God bless you. When she picked me up, I was so happy to see her. It was amazing. You have excellent drivers. They go out of their way. They don't have to. It's the human in them. And I appreciate that. God bless you. And to the drivers that are not here, people that are not here that still associated with RTA, I thank you for your service. I appreciate each and every one of you. I love riding paratransit. I just wish you could ride all day a pass. Because we see so much. Areas, I live in Cleveland, areas that I never knew, places that I can take paratransit back to. I enjoy it. I thank you all, and as I always say, be encouraged. Speak to somebody. Be kind to people. It doesn't hurt. Nod your head to somebody. Let them know. We see you. You're a person. I don't care if they're homeless or whatever. It could be you out there. Open your mouth. Speak. Nod your head. Nod your head. Even if you don't give them any money or whatever.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Let them know. We see you. I thank each and every one of you.
Any more? Lou? Please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Lou at the microphone, and change of the subject from the very pleasant, whimsical, personal experience to harsh public policies. Now, we know federal government not only changed lots of the rules affecting health and human services, the most recent change, which proposed rules already finished its public comments period, which will affect housing and transit tremendously. Because these 2 areas, most of the organizations have to rely on some government grants money. The change will be if you already get awarded for the grants. But if some politicians has a problem with what you do, maybe not truly related to the service, the program you apply that grant for, that grant can still be taken away from you even after awarding you 6 months or 9 months later. Now, this will be a very huge fight to make all service providers, doesn't matter social service providers or transit service providers, at risk. That means you probably will lose sleep just like you have babies. If we get the grants in the future, lots of things we do trying to take care of a community, but not really aligned with the federal politicians, we could be in trouble. So I really appreciate GCRTA started telling community through the meeting about how our money revenue or how our spending goes. I wish our levy will be on as soon as possible, because after the special Board of Trustee meetings, that evening when I went to county meeting, County Council President Dale Miller reminded me that there is no county-wide election in May 2027. For GCRTA to put a levy on the ballot, there will be a big fee to pay probably, and also lots of the rules, you have to go through all the hurdles. I wish the Board of Trustees would remind our administrative side of the staff to reevaluate. It's worthwhile to wait till May to do this, or it's better to do that in November 2027. So we would not have a huge funding gap. We can actually keep our programs going. Maybe we do not have to continue service cuts. Don't even think about raising the rates. People cannot afford it. Because with all the new changes, people living in public housing probably will be also subject to work requirements. This will be a disaster for the whole country. Ordinary people, please, GCRTA, be aware of the risk ahead of us. Do your best. We support you. Go, go, go.
Thank you, Lou. Anyone here in person who would like to speak? Okay, yes, ma'am. Name and city, please.
Good morning. I want to make sure you can hear me real loud and clear.
Yes.
Because lately, since I've been sitting here, this is my first time ever appearing at a meeting. I've been trying for a long time. And I noticed that you have not accommodated the deaf community. I did not hear anything. I had to try to figure out by piecing it together and looking at the void visionaries, trying to figure out exactly what it is that y'all trying to plan. So what I'm looking at so far, the only thing that I got a win of is what you's planning on funding, the brand new rail, which is so late. Why we keep pushing it back and back? We already behind. And we're putting all this money into it. And the only thing that I can suggest is that how about we having a rail besides just a bus to meet up where is there a possibility as far as where Amtrak, where we can have the rail to meet up with Akron and Canton and probably Toledo and Lyria. I got on the bus today and I've been riding. I did a lot of inspection on my own. And I have seen some things I've not even had a chance to even try to write down, address some of the concerns. But hopefully I'll be able to come in to the next meeting to meet with you and give you a list of my concerns and what I have seen was going wrong. Because first off, I don't know if any of y'all have ever traveled, not just out of state, out of the country. I'm talking about like California, Texas. We are so far behind. And we used to have one of the stepping bus and rail, communicate. And I've been seeing it being less and less people, and I don't want to sound discriminatory. I'm just kind of disgusted with some of the people that sometimes ride on the bus. I got on the bus for the first time this morning. I got a chance to see how many people are actually commuting on the bus, the public transportation, to go to work, besides medical. And that's the only thing. But hopefully I'll be able to come to the next meeting and address some of these concerns, and hopefully that you accommodate, the deaf and make sure you sound more. I heard her more so than I hear anybody. I didn't hear him. I did not hear you. I didn't hear the other people that spoken. I got little bits and pieces of it. So that's all I wanted to make available.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate you.
Anyone else in the audience? If not, we're going to move do we have any callers, Brent?
We do have one caller. Caller extension 0387, please go ahead.
This is Eric Stewart. Are Casey Blaze and Mike Shepard still available?
Just go ahead and give us your comments, sir.
I want to know that they're there so that they can hear my questions to them. In order for me to pose my questions to them, they have to be there to listen. Can they hear what I'm wanting to ask them?
Mr. Shipper's here. Please go forward.
Okay. I would like to know, do the Rapids have alternative fuel sources? Like, are they electric powered, the ones that are coming, the ones that are in place, and are they also gas powered? Has that been an option that's been made available? If they're not, in addition to that, I'd also like to know long-range thinking, let's say 20 years out. Would it be better if the Rapid ran all on heavy rail as opposed to heavy and light rail? And has there been a cost analysis for that, if that's been considered at all? Those are my questions to the two of you, if you have time and have the information to answer them. Separate from them, I've been waiting for somebody to get back in touch with me about what the material cost and labor is to build a bus shelter. I sent it in a web form. I've called, and nobody's responded to it. And I'm using the Lee Road and Scottsdale and Shaker Square shelters as models as to what they would cost in today's dollars to build with labor and material costs. That should be something that's not hard to answer. In reference to the route reduction, in reference to the service reduction of the number 15, 61 months in a row, I have suggested that the 15 most likely will be better as a 30-minute service route during the week. And I've repeatedly asked, what's the cost to run it, so I could put it in front of other members of the public, and nobody's giving me the information. But today, I'm hearing that the 15 is going to a 30-minute service, and you still aren't talking about what it costs to run it. And the 50 should have always been an hourly bus, and why aren't you moving it over to Marymount? And why did you have it at 30-minute service for commencing 2024, and now you're putting it back to 1 hour? And what cost was that? I mean, it's reasonable that if you're coming to the public for money, you should be able to explain to the public what the cost is to run the service, fuel included. How much more money have you been spending running the 50 every 30 minutes in comparison to running it once an hour? How much money is it going to cost the public if you just move the 50 over to Marymount and run it every hour and put the 48A back in service? What is the purpose of these public forums if you're not responding to the public? And in reference to this Sacramento trip, there should be engineers and mechanics on that trip with India Terry and Flance Cavers, because they're the ones that are most responsible for those rail cars being updated and repaired. India and Flance do not have backgrounds in engineering or repairing these cars. So I would like to know the answer to this question. I would like to know if you're willing to press the Board of Trustees, India and Flance, if they go on this trip to Sacramento, how much is it costing the public, and can they give a minute-by-minute update of what they've actually done during the time they've been out there?
Mr. Stewart, thank you for your comments.
Engineers to go.
Your time is up. We can answer when you're offline. Mr. Shipper can answer a few of your questions that I've jotted down. Thank you for your call. Relative to the cost of a bus shelter, I've talked with our general manager, and she will have someone get that information back to you on that. Relative to the rail cars, I believe those are all electric. Gas was not a feasible option, and we're going to operate 54 cars that can run on all the rails. We won't have a light rail, heavy rail issue. We'll have more functionality. Mike, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, they will be using the overhead catenary, and there will be a significant reduction in operation and maintenance and spare part costs with the common car.
And at the time, gas was not a feasible option, natural gas, to look at that?
That's correct.
Thank you so much. Any other comments to add to that?
Other than, we're really excited to be able to go and view these rail cars. As we mentioned, it's a $435 million investment. I would be remiss if I didn't lay eyes on a car that's going to service you for the next few decades. So I will say that this is my first and only trip to Sacramento in this capacity. We have a very capable team that's led by quite a few engineers, a lot of finance people, operational professionals, some of which will be traveling. I've done this before for a company that I did come here from for a rehabilitated rail project. This is really just the fun part in getting brand new vehicles. There's a lot of things that change, and we want to make sure we're bringing the cars to you in the most efficient manner. So I look forward to reporting back from Sacramento.
Thank you so much. Brent, do we have anyone else online on the line?
No, I don't think so.
Do we have any web comments?
There were a couple. There's one comment submitted also by Eric Stewart, similar to the comments he had on his phone call. Adam Rossi of Cleveland Heights wrote that he was concerned about the budget shortfall and service reductions, and he believes that RTA needs more time to advocate for its sales tax levy. Janos Yalex of Richmond Heights has noticed a decreased quality of transit since February 2025 on the Red Line. There are more stops and more transitions to trains. Janos agrees with the sales tax levy and that Cleveland will be more difficult to live in with less service. All the comments will be in the minutes for this meeting in full.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go on to committee reports. Do we have any chairs that have an update on any of their committees? Or, in that case, any ad hoc committees?
If I could, Trustee Elder is not here, but I just wanted to thank the staff who took the Community Advisory Council over to see a paratransit facility and on Euclid, I think. I was able to attend, and I just really appreciate the time that the staff takes to take the council into the community and show us around. I don't have prepared comments, but suffice it to say, they run a very complex operation with, I think, under 10 people at that facility, and it's really incredible. Paratransit is an incredibly important part of the service that we offer, and it's increasingly, front and center as we talk about budget items. So to understand it and all that goes into it is really important. So just thank you, and thanks to the advisory council members who let me join them on the tour.
Trustee Weiss.
Just a reminder, we have the second quarter audit committee meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 9 a.m. Everyone on the board is welcome, and others. Thank you.
Any other chairs? Okay, if not, we are going to go down to introduction of new employees and announcements of promotions. Ida Marshall.
Thank you. Good morning, Board President Kumar, General Manager, CEO, India Birdsong Terry, entire board. It is my pleasure to announce July new hires, promotions, and of course our retirees. We do have a few retirees in the audience today. We'll have a special presentation for them. We're starting off our July new hires, of course, with our bus operators, and that's Jessica Treywick, Doriel Anderson, Shadana Ilese, Elijah Beard, Darren Ford, Esaf Kulabali, Edward Nix, Autumn Pfister, and Tanisha Gadsden. Reginald Lanier, Erica Fox, Donald Lamb, Tamisha Johnson, Nakia Jones, and Ashley Hayes. Our paratransit operators for July is Akira Edwards, Sharna Stanley, Nicole Brown, and Ashley Pugh. Rail operators, Charlotte Crittenden, Dorothy Burgess, Charles Battle, Tracy Robinson, Anais Wallace, and Demi Anna McKinley. Moving into our mechanics is Corey Messner and Michael Palange, Engineering Co-op. We have some folks to celebrate promotions for the month of July, and that is Kenneth Green, Executive Assistant, Michael Gomez, Facilities Maintenance Crew Leader, Curtis E. Jordan, Assistant Supervisor, Rail Shop, Joshua J. Melton, Substation Maintainer, and Travis Samonchik, Sergeant, Transit Police. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. All right. So here is the moment we've all been waiting for. We have some retirees here in the audience with us today. I will call your name, and if you are present, please stand. Vanessa here will give you a certificate of honor on our appreciation. She will then escort you up to the red and white backdrop over here, where you will have a photo opportunity with the board president and the board of trustees, along with our CEO and COO. All right, let's get started. Now, just to mind you, I'm going to be up here for a little while because this is about 740 years of combined experience. David W. Stasko, Material Contract and Release Specialist. Latia Neal, Janitor. William A. Burns, Lead Line Maintainer. Christopher Nayez, Lead Signal Technician. Roman S. Drotz, Electronic Equipment Technician. Gary Gray, Electronic Equipment Technician. Michael Berry, Signal Technician. Phoenicia Hood, Service Quality Supervisor 2. Richard Powell, Rail Operator. Okay. John R. Stanko, Heating Air Conditioning Mechanic. Richard A. Vargas, Equipment Body Mechanic. Norman Hunter, Maintainer. Todd Patina, Maintainer. Kenneth J. Novich, Substation Maintainer. Douglas E. Ryant, Maintenance Technician. Malcolm E. Tyus, Equipment Maintainer. Stephen Novak, Rail Machinist. And Daryl E. Sullivan, Vehicle Servicer. All right. Herman Lee Allen Jr., Bus Operator. Stand up, Herman. Yes. All right. 10 years to service there. Artistine Beavers, Bus Operator. She is here with her family. Okay. Stand over here. Yes. Okay. And Raymond L. Bivens, Bus Operator. That's Raymond. Thank you, Raymond. Okay. I'm going to finish and complete this for you. Take your photo ops. James M. DeBray, Bus Operator. Michael Gary, Bus Operator. Sabra Gilmore, Bus Operator. Daniel Woke, Bus Operator. Rogelio Artis Jr., Bus Operator part-time. Daryl S. Moore, Bus Operator. And Dennis M. McIntyre, paratransit operator. And I do have to say, James E. Smith, 48 years, paratransit operator. And Stephanie Lowe, paratransit operator. Let's give them all of 740 years combined experience. Yay! All right. So we'll take a photo op, and then we invite you over to the podium to give us some special remarks, words of wisdom, memorable moments. Awesome. We got Herman, Artistine. You guys want to share any memorable remarks, stories, words of wisdom?
Only thing I have to say is I appreciate being able to work for the company. I enjoyed it. I tried to come to work every day, be on time, help people out. That's about it. Coming to work every day is, it was kind of easy, because I like talking to people and helping people. So I tried to be here every day.
Thank you for your service.
All right, I'm done.
Hello, I'm Artistine Beavers. I know you all gonna miss me like I'm gonna miss my trolley. And my favorite word is everybody know I'm blessed by the best. Thank you, Jesus. And it was an honor working with you guys, and I miss y'all so very much. And I love you all.
Thank you.
Good morning, board. Good morning.
Morning.
I've seen the best and the worst humanity on these buses. I've had the opportunity to walk a young lady down the aisle because she thought I was a father figure. I saw COVID, but the strangest thing I ever saw at RTA was a deer walking down the street of 12th and Superior on COVID when nobody was out but us. This has been an adventure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you. So we'll do the resolutions.
Sure will.
Then you can go and be retired happy. And thank you so much for spending some time. And thank you, the family, for coming as well.
Brett, 2026-44, please.
Expressing congratulations to the employees of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority who retired during the second quarter of 2026.
Okay, you've heard that resolution. I'm going to make a motion to approve it. And again, thank you to all of those that are retiring for your years of service and what you've given back to RTA and to the community. Do I have a second?
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. 2026-45, please.
Authorizing contract number 2026-36 with Browning Ferris Industries of Ohio, Inc., doing business as Republic Services, to provide trash collection and removal services in an amount not to exceed $223,086.42 for a period of 3 years, with 2 one-year options in amounts not to exceed $79,374.77 and $82,082.87 respectively, for a total contract amount not to exceed $384,544.06 for a 5-year period.
Thank you for that. You've heard that resolution. Do we have a motion and a second for that, please?
Second, McPherson.
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Fleesman. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 45 passes as well. 2026-46, please.
Authorizing contract number 2026-071 with Harsco Metro Rail LLC for the procurement of a production switch tamper in an amount not to exceed $1,950,000.
Okay, you've heard resolution 2026-46. Motion and a second, please.
Motion. Motion, Pachetti.
Second, Fleesman.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes as well. 2026-47, please.
Authorizing contract number 2026-44 with Gillig LLC for the furnishing of remanufactured brake caliper assemblies as specified and as required for a period of 2 years in an amount not to exceed $458,560.
Thank you for that reading. Any comments from the trustees? If not, a motion and a second.
Move to approve, Fleesman.
Second, Smith-Wiggham.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 47 passes as well. 2026-48, please.
Authorizing contract number 2026-11 with ETC Institute to provide survey services in an amount not to exceed $658,122 for a period of 3 years, and in an amount not to exceed $219,374 for each of 2 option years, for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,096,870 for a 5-year period.
Thank you for that. Do I have a motion and a second for that resolution?
Motion, Love.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 48 passes. 2026-49, please.
Authorizing contract number 2026-62 with K&J Safety and Security Consulting Services, Inc. for project 2065, consulting services for safety and security certification for GCRTA rail transit projects in an amount not to exceed $650,000 for a period of 36 months.
Thank you for that reading. Comments from the trustees? If not, a motion and a second.
Motion Harper.
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 49 passes as well. 2026-50.
Authorizing the general manager, chief executive officer to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District for student fares for the 2026-2027 school year.
Okay, we've seen this resolution in the past. I would just ask for a motion and a second.
So moved. Mayor Weiss.
Second.
Gallo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes as well. We're on to the last resolution, 2026-51.
Adopting the tax budget of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2027, and submitting the same to the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Officer.
Okay, you have heard that relative to the tax budget. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next, we have the Secretary Treasurer's Report from Raj Gotham, Deputy GM of Finance. Welcome, Raj.
It has been a while. Mayor Kumar, members of the board, good morning once again. My name is Raj Gotham. I am the Deputy General Manager of Finance and the Board Secretary Treasurer. We'll begin with highlighting the environment that our business is operating in, and we'll review the economic conditions. The FOMC is scheduled to meet July 28th and 29th. At the June 17th meeting, they maintained the interest rates at 3.75%. And we all remember what a roller coaster of a ride the inflation rate has been, high of 9.1 in June 2022 and down to 3.5 in June 2026. The June inflation rate actually decreased by 0.8%, which has been remarkable. So it is at 3.5% in June 2026. We had skimmed over and eliminated this slide last month because of the heavier schedule, but we're bringing this back, and largely we look at this to determine possible impact on our sales tax revenue. Consumer sentiment across all three indices month over month showed solid increases. Year over year, of course, they still remain lower when you compare it to the previous year. This month's rise in sentiment was quite pervasive across the population, seen across groups by age, income, wealth, and political party affiliations. Ridership through June 2026, 2 million riders in June. Ridership was 5.9% higher when compared to June 2025. On a year-to-date basis, comparison to the pre-COVID level on a year-to-date basis, in 2019, we had 15.7 million rides. We're down to 11.8 million rides. That's roughly 3.9 million decrease, or about 24.8%. Passenger fares, that moves in close proximity to the ridership changes, except for some timing differences that may come in from time to time. The June passenger fare revenue was 2.2% lower when compared to June 25. On a year-to-date basis, we are 4.2% below 2025 levels. And when we compare ourselves to pre-COVID numbers, we're down $5 million, or roughly 26.8%. Part of the reason it's not totally in sync with the ridership numbers is the timing issues that we frequently talk about. So if one were to exclude the U-Pass and the CMSD, which is where the timing differences tend to come in, we were relatively flat with 2025 numbers. Sales and use tax, reminder, as always, we're looking back 3 months because the economic activity in April is what determines what we collected in July. The July 26 receipts were 8.9% higher when we compare it to July 2025 levels. On a year-to-date basis, we're 4.9% higher than 2025 year-to-date numbers. Once again, on a year-to-date basis, if we were to look at the categories, and the largest categories that have an impact, 12 out of the 21 categories that make up the sales tax base were positive. Online sales were up 11.8%. Motor vehicles and watercraft, 1% higher. And regular and statewide sales were 4.5% higher. Recap of the data that is included in your monthly packages. Total outstanding debt at the end of 2025 was $13.9 million. Our average investment yield on a year-to-date basis is 3.65%. Total cash and investments that the authority has amounted to $340.7 million, of which unrestricted or general fund balances were $33.1 million, which exceed that 1 month operating reserve requirement that board policy requires. In June, we did make the first of the transfers from the Revenue Stabilization Fund. If you'd recall, we had budgeted $44 million required to keep up with the shortfalls. In June, we transferred $4 million from this Revenue Stabilization Fund. Quick update on the new debt issuance. It went exceedingly well. So the pricing was conducted last week. The closing is scheduled for July 28th, 2026, and if all goes well, we should have the cash in our accounts on July 29th. And when I talk about the success of the sale, the bond proceeds of $35 million resulted in bond premiums of roughly $3.4 million, which means that on July 29th, we will have $38.4 million coming into our accounts. So with that, I'll answer any questions or entertain any comments.
Both of us. Please. No, after you.
Chetty.
Can you go back to consumer sentiment just for
Yes, ma'am.
a second? Okay, you said it rose.
So the month-to-month is the
okay.
second last column, and
I was looking at-
year-over-year is the. So the month-to-month we're up significantly when compared to, but on a year-to-date basis we still are significantly lower.
Okay, and then I just have a question about ridership and revenue. As usual, it's my favorite topic.
Sure.
I just, when the train, like on the Green Line, it's down right now, it's out of service for a month, rides are free, how does that get calculated or considered as part of, like, will we see that show up in the numbers at all?
You do. So
Okay.
obviously the numbers that we're reporting on
Yeah.
are on a cash basis, which means the actual cash that has been collected. We are not making any adjustments on any accrual basis or revenue not billed or collected, et cetera. This is the actual cash that came into the authority, and that's what we have just reported.
Okay, and then so is there any way, are we even estimating the riders who are using that free service? And would that show up in the ridership numbers? And that's where there would be
I bring back Reuben Morgan to you.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board. I'm Reuben Morgan, Manager of Operations Analysis. I'm the person who does all the ridership calculations. So yes, we do calculate ridership on the replacement bus service, and that is included in these numbers. We use automatic passenger counters, which are little devices above the doors of the vehicles, which count as people enter and leave the vehicles. So all of our fleet is equipped with these automatic passenger counters. So as we're sending buses and collecting passengers on the service, even if we're not collecting fares, we are still counting the number of people getting on and getting off, which helps for analytical purposes and then also for federal reporting.
Excellent. And how long have those been in use?
So we've had automatic passenger counters on part of our fleet for many, many years at this point. However, our full fleet has been equipped roughly since 2024. We had a few vehicles that did not have automatic passenger counters, 10 that were still in service for 2024 and 2025. At the beginning of this year, they've no longer been, and they're no longer part of our fleet. And so now at this point, every single vehicle that we put out in service has an automatic passenger counter on it on the bus side.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Weiss?
If I,
A follow-up on the ridership, actually. I think we had talked at one point of perhaps being able to break down ridership by rail, bus, paratransit, and comparing it to pre-COVID, so we sort of know, who is getting back up to normal levels faster than others. So if we could add something in that covers that. I don't know that we need it for all the years, but just pre-COVID and then for the categories.
Yeah, we can provide that. Just off the top, real quickly, the rail on weekdays is about half the ridership we saw pre-COVID. Bus is about 3/4 of the ridership we saw 80%. And then Healthline is about 3/4 of what we saw pre-COVID. Weekend is already higher on the bus side than it was pre-COVID. On the rail side, it's around the 3/4 mark of what we were seeing before. But we'll provide those numbers for you guys so you guys can see them in a document.
And the paratransit, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Harper?
And paratransit is over 50% ridership compared to what we were seeing in 2019. So that is the one that is way higher than what we were seeing. So not 50% of 2019, but 50% higher than what we saw in 2019.
I just had a question as to why we're still using 2019 pre-COVID data as a baseline metric. People work differently, the frequency with which people come to downtown. And the only reason I ask that is because, just visually, this looks like failure. But I don't believe that it is a failure because, again, our world is different. So
You're absolutely right, and we are creatures of habit. We fell into a habit of reporting pre-COVID recovery numbers. We know that the world has changed, so I think when we report these numbers, actually there's that positive that we don't often touch upon, which is with the change in work. So I don't see loss in ridership. I see new riders coming in with the world that has changed. So your point is noted. Be happy to delete 2019 data if that's what the board wishes and stuff, but this came as a request at some time ago and we've just stayed with it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The only other thing I'll kind of add to the conversation of 2019 and now, the number of trips people make nowadays, just in general with delivery services, for groceries, for food, for whatever, there's a lot less trips in general happening, not just in transit, but just in general, because we have e-commerce, we have delivery systems that are just so much more popular than they were pre-COVID. So like you're kind of mentioning, on one hand, if we look at just the ridership side, yes, it looks worse, but trips overall in the region are just very different than they were pre-COVID. So it's a very different world that we're working with. So even if someone doesn't have to make a trip, that's still a benefit. They're saving time by not having to make that trip than they did before COVID.
I was just going to say, by way of history, we had originally added this in because it actually was a positive comparing our recovery versus other municipalities around the country. So we actually were recovering faster than most, and people didn't always understand that number. So it was helpful to show them, yes, in fact, Chicago, Atlanta, whatever, we were recovering quicker.
that's a really compelling narrative, and I think would be a good thing to mention to potential voters.
Thank you. We will. Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick piggyback on just a few things. I'll be fast. The APC, the automated passenger account, has been around for a while, and I just want to get a confirmation that it will also be on the rail cars. And I think we need to be able to address how we're going to be able to count those folks. I know we're also looking at Fairgate implementation in different key spots within the system. And so more information will be coming on that piece. But on the APC, on the bus side, as was mentioned, it is an infrared system, and so you do have a little bit of a false positive sometimes when you hop on to ask a question and you hop back off. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. But I remember APC being a huge tool when I first started, at least 20 years ago. So it's been around a while, but it has been improved. Really quickly, Trustee Harper, so glad you said that 2019, why is it a marker? And I appreciate Mayor Weiss and saying why we started it. It made sense then. It doesn't make as much sense now because of the travel pattern adjustments. I will say that there are a lot of different mechanisms that are being looked at on a national scale. I just saw an RFP, I think it was RFI or RFQ actually, that, that means that it's in the baking stage, right, through the federal government that's looking at different mechanisms for key performance indicators. So I will just say this out loud and I'll leave it there. This is a very good sign because the traction work that our team has been doing over the last 4 years, let's say, dovetails exactly into what the federal government is asking transit authorities to look at. How does safe and clean look? How does, of course, ridership, but really how does the rider experience dovetail into how things are operating and what that means for transit overall? So there will be, it looks like a concerted effort to be able to kind of pull out and extract a lot of the mechanisms that we've been looking at for the last few years across the country, and we'll be able to report back on that as soon as we have a little bit more information. So just wanted to mention those things.
Thank you, Raj. I appreciate it. Next, the General Manager's report.
Got so into it, didn't realize I was up next. All right. So I have the fun part of the presentation, and I'll be as quick as I can for time. We have a couple of retirements to celebrate today, and I'll get to that. And so we will have a little bit of an in-house guest speaker for a moment, but I'll start, as we always do, with some of the good news when it comes to funding. As I mentioned before, we always like to be able to say thank you to our external partners because really that shows the confidence that our state and regional partners have in us as Greater Cleveland. So $10 million for construction for the state fiscal year of 2027 was awarded to us for the light rail track rehab. This was kind of talked about in the presentation that we had earlier, and this is to support the infrastructure investment for Northeast Ohio. This is ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation. Again, thank you to Director Pam Borton and her team to be able to continually invest in RTA, and we hope that you do too. Also, wanted to explain whenever we see any doubleheader or trifecta type of events going on downtown, I'm making it a practice to bring this to you as FYI. We got a lot of questions over the summer earlier about what are we doing to support downtown? What are we doing to support some of the major venues? Apparently this was a stadium tour, and we can't control the headline name of the first tour, but you can you can see why it's up here. Because it indicates the numbers, right? Anytime you have an excess of 25, let's say 1,000 people coming for any particular event, you know it's going to be congestion. And then when you add on a secondary event and perhaps a third and a fourth, which sometimes happen here when you especially have games and comedy shows and stadium tours and the like, RTA is looked at to be able to transport people. So again, we have to have folks remember the benefit of the investment in public transportation. Even if you don't take it on a daily basis, going to work and medical appointments even, you probably take it when you're not wanting to drive through all the congestion, right? So it could be a benefit to those folks who may not take it every day, and this is what we have to continually remind people. Imagine Greater Cleveland without a public transit system that can take you to these kind of tours and these kind of events. It would look very different than what we have today. So if you have any questions, we're happy to explain, but clearly the numbers speak for themselves. 33,000 fans attended the Post Malone and Jelly Roll concert, and then 40,000 fans attended the Usher and Chris Brown. And then, of course, you had additional services, which all operated per additional schedule. As was mentioned, perfect timing. Trustee Pachetti mentioned the site visit, and so wanted to be able to kind of show you what that looked like. Again, we appreciate the team at Paratransit. They do quite a bit for our community, as was mentioned. Those folks that need to get to dialysis appointments, those folks that need to get to medical, and just folks generally who just need to get around and need a little bit of extra care. We appreciate it. As was mentioned, we are looking at, let me make sure I get the stat right, 50% of pre-COVID, and this is a reason that we do say that for this, because paratransit was the one line of business that continued to increase even though the other lines of business decreased. And for that particular stat, 2019 is helpful in understanding that we really are just on the upswing for this, and this is an unfunded mandate by the federal government. So we cannot say no unless it's outside of our parameters for service or ineligibility comes into play, but generally we have to provide that trip to the best of our ability without the guaranteed funding from the federal government. Another reason why we're so essential, and sometimes essential invisibly to the customer. And again, imagine Greater Cleveland without paratransit services. It looks very different than what we have today. I always like to say as well, if you know someone that rides paratransit, but for paratransit, you might be driving them yourselves. So also remember for the next person how important this is. All right, super excited for this one as well. We talked about a podcast. We talked about this probably last year, even the year before, for some of you trustees who have been with us for a little while. We were busy building it. We did this quietly. I might have mentioned before, it's in-house work. The podcast studio is actually housed in this building. We have had a lot of different external partners through marketing and advertising over many, many years. And some of them have, including our own partner that we have now through AdCom and Brokaw before that and other partners, usually have a podcast room available that we have to go rent, and we have to go across the street and down the road and everything else to be able to pack up our stuff and be able to get our message out. Well, we got tired of doing that and thought, well, we can do this ourselves, but we have to wait a little bit and be able to make it economical and work it in between all of the other projects. And lo and behold, here we are. So July 27th, we will have episode 1. This is the inaugural episode, kicking off, and you'll see me there with our brand new host, Ron Allen. He is a union member and works in our central bus maintenance as a money handler. And so it's amazing with the talent that I always say we have that you never know until you unearth it. He actually has a background in this very artistic, fanfare, and has been on radio before and studied in college and everything else and made a perfect host. So we're excited to be able to do this work. We'll continually have a podcast at least once every 2 months with kind of mini-sodes in between and commercials. And this is where we can be able to put this on the external platforms as well as internal platforms so that we can continue to get our message out. This is perfect timing for what we're doing coming up for next year as well at the ballot box. So we encourage folks to be able to tune in, and you'll see that it's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And we'll continue to highlight a lot of the things that are going on underneath the hood, so tune in. All right, so here we go. We wanted to make sure that we give just due to our retirees, but we have a special retiree amongst our leadership ranks. So Michael Shipper is our PE, our professional engineer and chief engineer, and he's been leading the charge of the engineering and project management division for well over 25 years here in Cleveland and specifically here at RTA. We just want to be able to say thank you, Mike. Thank you, thank you. You have been an amazing, dedicated, passionate voice, right? To be able to get us over the hurdle of a lot of major projects. There's a lot of words on this screen, but I'm going to truncate it for you a little bit before we hear from Mike. He is a grant guru. So when you think about being able to really wield and work through some of the red tape that goes into not just the application process, but really understanding what's happening at the state level and then also learning what's happening in a ever-evolving landscape in the federal government, had the opportunity to work alongside Mike and really figure out how to adjust to different administrations. Over his 25-year history, secured over $600 million in competitive grant funding. He worked with and alongside and oftentimes leading our finance plan to be able to really get to those grants. And I think has laid the foundation for a lot of good relationships and sometimes have had to have the really tough decisions as far as what we can and cannot tolerate from an engineering perspective. So I will say I always like debate, and Mike does not disappoint. So I appreciate being able to have that kind of transparency within the DGM ranks, the Deputy General Manager ranks, and I think we'll miss him for that. Also, the health line comes up. I always like to say that this is now State of Good Repair project, but in its heyday, right? This was a major deliverable for Cleveland, and Mike was instrumental in delivering that to the RTA. And also the BRT. We're also the granddaddy of the BRT. That's another thing that we like to say. And so you'll see that passion that Mike has for not only the West 25th, and that's the reason why, but the Euclid corridor, right? Because that was also instrumental and part of the reason that Mike was brought here to RTA. So he leaves in his wake sort of a very strong bench depth, the engineering department. You see a lot of engineers that are newer at RTA, and this is a generational shift that we have going on. Anyone that has 25 years and up that wants to retire, I say you've earned it. And so we appreciate Mike, and at this point, I'm gonna actually ask Mike to join us at the dais for a couple of words. I know Mike. And you did hear from him on Railcar, but that's a major project guy, and we appreciate Mike for his time.
Mike, we've allotted 20 minutes.
No, no, thanks, India. You heard enough of me earlier today, but yeah, when I came here, I came here to get the health line built, and I figured I'd stay at RTA for 6 or 7 years to get that project done, and it took 7 years to get the project done. But you know, what I found is there's so much we do for the community. And doing the health line was a big deal. And it was a big deal for our agency. And it is one of the things that has, you know, even when we were looking at some of the research for the bond issue, you know, that came up. And so I had a great privilege of being a part of that and working with a great team to get it done. But there were so much other things to do, and we've been doing it. And you know, for the last 10 years, I've been working on the rail car, and we are, you know, I can leave because we've got a great team running that program. I mean, what they've accomplished, you know, is pretty substantial. With a trying time in terms of inflation and other things, and just the whole manufacturing process. I don't know if Eric Stewart's on the call. I've been out there 3 times, and the team that I've been out there with is pretty amazing, and it runs, you know, from the project management team to our facility for our equipment engineers and our equipment maintainers that have joined us on these trips that have so much knowledge of every part and piece of a rail car. And every part and piece of that rail car they look at, and you know, the manufacturer is noticing that we are really paying attention to what they're building. So it makes it easier to leave because they're doing a great job. I've got a great team downstairs. They've delivered a lot of really great projects for RTA and for the community and for our riders. And that's the joy we get out of it, is when I ride the system and people are using what we've built and commenting on what we built. And there's been a number of times when I've been out on the system, particularly, I'll tell one story of a little bit after the health line was done. I was riding, and a elderly woman is sitting in the vehicle, and I get on, and she's like, "Hey, you're the RTA guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the RTA guy. And I'm thinking, who knows what she's going to say. But she says, I got to thank you. My whole life I rode the number 6. And all the time you guys were talking about doing the health line, I thought the health line was for the rich people, and the number 6 would still be there, and I'd be stuck on the number 6. And I said, no, we built this for you. And she said, this is the greatest thing for her. And she had been writing us. She'd been writing us since the beginning of RTA and writing CTS, and that's why we do it. So, thank you. It's been a privilege, and it's hard to walk away, but it is time, and it's time for someone else to do it. So, thank you.
Absolutely well-deserved, Mike. We appreciate you, and we know you feel RTA in your blood, and we'll continue to do that work and make you proud. So with that, I believe that is my last slide, and back to the board.
Great, thank you so much. The only thing I have under my report is to reinforce what Mayor Weiss had mentioned about the Internal Audit Committee meeting. Tony and his team really have done a good job to evolve and provide meaningful information. And so even if you're not on that internal audit committee, I would highly suggest that you attend if you can, because it's very helpful and very informative on that. Is there any old or new business from any trustee? Okay. If not, I'm going to make a motion that we go into executive session to review the negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and to consider the employment evaluation and compensation of a public employee or official. Do I have a second?
Second, Pachetti.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Kumar,
Yes.
Ms. Pachetti, Ms. Elder, Mayor Gallo,
Yes.
Ms. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Ms. McPherson,
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman,
Yes.
Mayor Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Wiggum.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. We're going to go into executive session. I will let management let us know who else would like to attend. And just for the public, when we come out, we will go back into a public session. There won't be no additional business. It will be just to announce the date of the next board meeting, and then we'll be adjourning.
All right, I appreciate that. And then as we transition to executive session, we do have a cake here from Mike. And so get your sugar fix before you leave, if you don't mind, because I don't want to have to eat all that cake. And, and if I can ask the board, if you don't mind, to just, Mike, I'm sorry, I got to do it. Can you take a photo with Mike as well? I don't want to miss out. We're trying to get everything in, if you don't mind here, while we've all got you together. Brent, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Brent. Bob, if you could come over with your camera there, and then the DGMs, if you also would be able to come for a separate photo. We'll be celebrating Mike all month, but I wanted to make sure we do that. For the executive session, the folks that I do need to remain in this room, everyone else is dismissed once you get your cake, is George Fields, Scott Ferraro, Raj Gotham, Kay Satula, Janet Burney, and Deputy Chief Gettings, in the back. And that's it. And we'll go from there. Am I missing?